just gone for a quick minute here. We got everything figured out, and we are ready to get things set up for BlossoM Ballistix. We know the map is going to be Dragonshire, Cursed Hollow, and Braxis Holdout were banned out. Not too crazy of map bans for either one of these teams. We talked about a lot of the hero pools, a lot of the concerns going into it. What about when looking specifically towards this map? Actually, as we actually have the draft ready to kick off, let's just get right into it.
Yeah, let's get right into it. I think it was Dragonshire, if I'm not mistaken. And Dragonshire is always one of those interesting battlegrounds where oftentimes the quote-unquote underdog team, if they are confident enough to play on this battleground, if they have strong enough rotations, they can actually compensate all those team fight drawbacks and disadvantages that they might suffer from. And Maiev doesn't really surprise me here. No chances taken, no risks once that hero goes through, normally causing a lot of chaos.
You know, we saw the Tracer factor in our last series, but Tracer for these teams doesn't necessarily stand out for either of them, especially Ballistix. They just flat out kind of avoid that hero, and BlossoM hasn't necessarily played a lot of it either. So I think we're going to get a little bit of a different style of drafts when it comes to this, and we had talked about that a little bit, but the Tracer factor I think has been kind of the standout when we looked at the Western Clash, and here coming to the Eastern Clash has been there. So we'll see if that springs up, and if it does, I wouldn't be terribly surprised in the manner of its Tracer, but I would be a little bit surprised based on the teams.
The thing is, we haven't really had this moment where we're like truly enlightened of what works very, very well against the Tracer. That's the cool thing about it. Like normally we have these antagonists like a couple of months ago when the infamous Li Ming Anubarak antagonism really came to place, right? But up to this point, it still remains to be seen like which hero turns out to be the ultimate Tracer shutdown. My Bovarian, still waiting for him.
Ooh.
Still waiting for it.
One thing I want to pose with this composition, I say composition, but it's only Interior, is number one, it enables a lot of the Hanzo concerns we were already talking about. Dragonshire is a map that really plays into that pick and that rotations from them, but also he accents a very unique playstyle in Dragonshire with this kind of disengage, depending on if you want to have a mage kind of disassembling composition with an anti-siege and running a 1-3-1. Dignitas did it actually at the Western Clash very efficiently with a Chrome Ethereal within the 4-man, and it does pretty well into a Tracer. It's going to be not something I expect them to, but I feel like because we haven't seen much Tyrael be let through some of these drafts, it's something that I would not be surprised if Ballistix manipulated into after having this Malfurion Tracer, which I think is pretty expected, except, again, these teams don't play the Tracer. This is them kind of committing to objective meta rather than what they know.
Well, what Ballistix does know is Uther, and I would be really surprised if that doesn't make it through here. And if you do want to go into that squishier backline with the Hanzo to give that to SC, Uther can protect that a little bit better than basically every other support by providing that armor. So if they go Uther Hanzo here, I wouldn't be terribly surprised by the fact that they haven't committed to it this quickly. I imagine they've got other things in their mind to pair with the Uther.
Yeah, and that is pretty much the response here coming in immediately from Ballistix. As much protection, as much disengage as you could possibly find here. We could go for double invulnerability, Divine Shield, Sanctification, and the bunker on top of that, the icing on the cake.
I mean, those three heroes together straight up build the safest composition you can ever think of. Double invulnerability, AoE, double disengage, triple disengage heroics, depending on how you want to use the Divine Shield. Like, it's just crazy to think about what they provide.
And if you think about it, depending on how the game goes, depending on what your playstyle and what your goals are for the draft, you could even throw in a Divine Storm against the Tracer there.
Yeah, we actually saw some of that flexibility out of China yesterday, and it was, I mean, very well done with the double Anubarak stun lock. Really kind of set those teams back. BlossoM hovering over the Hanzo. I feel like that's not surprising.
Well, if they're going to ban out the Hanzo, I wonder if they'll go down the Tracer Greymane route to take the Greymane away from SC, which would do well into that composition of Ballistix. There's just... The Hanzo, again, does do really well. Hanzo does well against Tracer, you know, just kind of poking, and when you've got that much protection, it's super difficult to get the takedown. So BlossoM is going to need a lot more. Wave Clear, I mean, I'm just looking down the list here. Garrosh, I was going to say, the Garrosh factor with BlossoM is very prevalent.
But then they have, that was a really good band as well, because into the Blaze you can consider the opportunity for the Malthael matchup, and it's like, well, then you have the Garrosh too, you deny any risk or fear. But that being said, also looking at Ballistix comp, I don't know if they had to ban that out or give that much concern towards it, because they already have quite a bit of melees committing any more to that would be high risk, high reward. I can't help but agree with you. We see the Mouth Tracer. It's going to struggle into the raw survivability. I feel like I laid it out pretty clearly on how hard and beefy each one of those characters Ballistix has. And I can't help but feel like it's got to be something weird, a little bit more like Chromie-esque, more considering of denying any kind of siege and slow play. For BlossoM, they commit to a Junkrat ETC.
Wow. And ETC was the hero I wanted to talk about at the very instance, because isn't it strange how what used to be the most contested warrior for a long period of time has now kind of drifted off into a secondary pick, maybe if Garrosh isn't available anymore, maybe something like Turret is already banned out or picked away. So ETC coming in hot here once again for BlossoM, and if you think about it, there's always this playmaking capability still available. However, Stage Staff actually has performed pretty well in this tournament up to this point.
So Tychus and Greymane are two very, very prominent heroes in Ballistix hero pool.
Yeah.
Any reason why you wouldn't go down that route? I mean, they both do well against Tracer.
Yeah.
They both do well against ETC.
I would like, in this case, I feel like more of the Greymane, unless you have concerns with the Mosh Pit threat, which could come out.
Wow.
Instead, it's the double support Vala play here. They are going to bring it out. I said it, on Dragon Shard, it's one of the few maps that we see teams willing to play it.
They've run this before. SD ran the Ariel before. And Vala, of course, SC, if you go back to last year, when Vala in the double support meta, SC does things that almost nobody else can do on Vala. And when you have this amount of protection, it is super scary. So I would have liked maybe a little bit more standard, but given that it's Ballistix, given that it's SC on this hero, I'm cool with it. I don't know where we stand yet since the support nerfs.
That is so interesting. That's going to be our second game of Vala SCSC in 2018. They didn't really do so well the last time. Lost with it, unfortunately. But can they redeem themselves? Can they bring back the double support and establish it? As Dredd said, Dragon Shard might be the perfect fit for it.
Yeah, and I tried to talk about it a little bit. I feel like the Leoric pick is probably the most optimal left here for BlossoM. I feel like out of all the picks we saw in the draft outside of the Malfurion Tracer, very well thought out in that position. I feel like in this case, with the Junkrat synergy, and more so, they have to give a lot of control on the map. They are going to struggle with the 4, with the double support, the control on the map that it provides. We're going to go ahead and bust out these predictions really quick. I know I'm feeling in the Ballistix ballpark. They performed amazing yesterday. Have a hard time kind of doubting them here today, especially after that draft.
Main support, mains unite, Dredd. You know, I'm feeling it. I feel like Auriel Uther is here to make a stand, and I think Ballistix, with the help of SCSC on that hypercarry, is going to make it work.
I think that they will struggle a bit around this, but depending on how, I guess, comfortable they feel, how well practiced they are, allowing SC that room to work, my choice is for Ballistix just due to strength all around, so seems good.
Seems like people at home feel a bit of the same here. I just want to bring to light, before this game happens, there's going to be a lot of focus around the Knight camps and pressuring towards that, and the Giant camps and stacking those. If BlossoM struggles with the Giant control on the bottom half of the map because they get distracted by the Knight play that I can expect out of Ballistix, this might not be the longest Dragon Shard game we felt in the world. I can't help but kind of lay that out beforehand, because this is a very unique approach that Ballistix has displayed, but BlossoM might kind of panic. Either way, we have game number 1 ready. Guys, take it away.
All right, it'll be a pleasure, because if I recall correctly, JL, this is our very first cruise together on this Eastern Clash. Actually, in our casting history together, isn't it?
Hey, we've shared a lot of desk time together.
Oh, we've shared a lot of room time, you know?
Yeah, I mean, partied a little bit together, you know.
Not too hard, though.
Oh, definitely not. Too old for that.
5, 4.
Either way, we've got ourselves BlossoM versus Ballistix, teams very familiar with each other, and we also have a pause right away as we get started here. We'll take a moment as this gets squared away.
They just want to tease us a little bit more.
The thing is if SC goes down at any moment in the 4-man, if there's a pick, if there's a timely pulse bomb, if there's something that doesn't play out, the wheels fall off at that point. It's just like you get a flat tire, you got to pull over to the side of the road, wait for, you know, the tow truck to come around, change that tire, and that tire is basically SC respawning. I think that if you lose that element, even the Ariel element of that, you lose so much control in terms of aggression. When you're double support, you can be aggressive. You can get away with a few things that you can't get away with otherwise. And I think that if any part of those fall off, you just kind of just got to pull back just a little bit.
Yeah, and you mentioned Junkrat here, Rip Tire plays potentially. I think, especially if you watch the last series between KSV Black and Tempest, Reset's Junkrat oftentimes was the game-deciding factor, and Junkrat against double support can do so much, whether it's blowing some of the supports across a wall, leaving them unable to support SCSC anymore in the Vala, whether it's waiting for that Riptire moment until the Crystal Aegis is done, until the Divine Shield is over. There are so many plays that you can make happen, so I'm really excited to see how much mayhem Junkrat can bring into this game.
He's going to need to create quite a bit of it, and the rotations, I think, that are going to be particularly interesting to watch are between that mid and bot lane. And I think that when you look at the composition-wise, if you're going to make that rotation, if you're on the side of Ballistix, you have to do that as a team. If you're on the side of BlossoM, you don't necessarily have to make that as a team. You can kind of split up just a little bit. They also have the kill potential with the ETC there. If they can find somebody, get the concussion mine to get the displacement and try and take control of those rotations. So if I'm on the side of BlossoM, they're known for being a team that likes to team fight, like to get a lot of kills. So if they're going to do that, I think they're going to have to control the early rotations, especially around the camps that Dreadnought was alluding to.
I think the game is ready now for you guys, so you will have to wait no longer. It is Team BlossoM here against Ballistix Gaming as well in game number 1 here of this best-of-5 set at the Eastern Clash. And the teams are getting ready. Everything is looking good, looking fine. And I'm just going to take this moment to appreciate a nice minion block if I see one.
Yeah, I mean, if you are threatened and you don't want to step too far out into the lane, you just simply fall back and make sure. Pumped up quite a bit there.
Yeah, sorry.
The Leoric swings are just like
Leoric
terrifying.
is just pounding it left and right with that mace. That was very loud for our headsets here, so we apologize. Anyways, we see the infamous 4-man rotation here. That is definitely what Ballistix is going to try and keep up here. ETC trying to interrupt a little bit. Gets stunned against the wall, though, by Auriel.
Gets stunned indeed. And again, it's up to controlling the rotations, I think, for BlossoM. And a lot of it happens here between the mid and bottom lane. You can see the positioning was indeed there.
Yeah. So,
but there's just not enough cumulatively yet to punish them.
Absolutely, and we see what Dread mentioned before. That Siege Giant pressure is going to be real. However, they can't really fully commit to it because Hooligan had to take quite a beating here. Gondor now, on the other hand, also being dropped and chipped very, very low here. It really seems to me that Ballistix is now trying to use, take a little bit of a breather and just try to get that mercenary camp on the way. Now, is BlossoM going to try to intercept, interfere, or are they just going to take value somewhere else on the map? We see Leoric already posturing up here to get Shrine control. Both Shrines are actually going to fall into the hands of BlossoM for now, but Uther's already well meting it up here, trying to keep Tracer in check. Stuns it up, but now he's going to get pressured.
He's going to get pressured. The roots, the raw roots will land. And this is something that when you're running this composition, you know, the armor is going to be there. You don't necessarily have the double assassin follow-up to kind of get that burst potential, and that's something where double support will do really well against. And, you know, we might even see a little bit of a change-up. We've got the cleanse, the hand of protection from Uther, but you've also got the Guardian of the Ancient Kings for stuns and roots like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't even mind seeing the Guardian of the Ancient Kings. Actually, a lot of pro players hold that thought here. Auriel goes down. That is first blood against Ballistix, and BlossoM takes a little bit of a retaliation blow here as well. They lose ETC in the process, but the thought I was trying to make, J.O., is a lot of pro players. I remember last year I talked to Bakery about this. They were like, you know, Guardian of the Ancient Kings is actually the better talent in most cases because it's so reliable. You're not dependent on cooldown. You can't miss it. As long as your timing is perfect against those Malfroots, against the ETC stunts, which are very predictable abilities at times, then you're definitely going to get massive protection value.
See how that goes. Auriel went down in that team fight. The wheels did not fall entirely off as SC had enough pressure in return. So we had our first trade of the game, and it didn't really show which side had the advantage. But you can see double support standing up. Magi, however, being caught out here, he's going to get zoned out by Tracer, and in the meantime, we've got ourselves a DK 3 minutes into the game.
Yeah, BlossoM is not messing around here. They're definitely trying to not take any prisoners here. Already, the first tower is about to fall. There's only so much an early Dragon Knight can do, however, so wouldn't be surprised if it plays a little bit more passively now. And it's really cool to observe the laning matchup in the top lane between Leoric and Blaze. Although Blaze is one of the strongest solo top laners in the game right now, Leoric is one of the few heroes who can keep him in check, and to the point even where Wiz was able to pressure back Zhongha so much that top Shrine control never fell back into their hands.
Speaking of control, we've got some control over the structures for BlossoM as they've now got the middle fort wall down, one tower in the top lane. They're trying to get some control here on the bottom lane. And in opening up structures, just walls, you don't have to get the early forts. Just getting some of the early structures and the fort walls down is far better than just trying to push down one lane. It gives you lane control. It gives you a lot that you can do on this battleground. You can see experience-wise, they were down about a half, 3/4 of a level going into that. They come out neutral and maybe just a slight bit ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, opening up the map is so important for BlossoM here. We remember back in the days where double support used to be really popular, one of the few ways to deal with it very efficiently was to take a lot of pushing power, a lot of wave clear power, and I think that's exactly what BlossoM has here with the Leoric, with the Junkrat. That's a lot of poke, but here we see a highly contested point. The bottom Mercenary camp is going to be really fought over.
Yeah, Wiz coming here on the backside, trying to get some pressure on Gondar. Has to power slide out just for safety, and Ballistix was able to take control of that. Hooligan, however, eats a pulse bomb. The cleanse is going to be there. The armor is enough to keep him alive, and now they've turned their attentions to ETC as Gondar trying to get away. Power slides out, does live there as the Knights and company for Ballistix pushing forward.
And this is the power of Turiel right there. He can bait so many cooldowns onto him. And if you're a seasoned veteran player like Hooligan, you know exactly when to use that Eldrin's Might as an initiation tool, or if you want to get out of harm's way. So really well done by Ballistix. The Justice for All actually is a really cool twist to it, right? It adds even more protection power to the already hard to kill double support comp.
It's going to be extremely difficult to crack this as we take a look at some of those questing talents along the way. You know, looking at them, there's not anything that really stands out that kind of has that over-the-top momentum, but it definitely plays towards the longer part of the game. So we'll see how those play out. But looking at the damage numbers there, this is where the double support's going to come in at 17,000 damage on the side of SC for Bala. I mean, there's not much else there. So, again, keeping him alive is going to be the name of the game for Ballistix.
Absolutely. Maybe it's worth mentioning that SCSC went for the W build, the multi-shot build. It's usually a nice tool to provide more reliable energy gain for Auriel. If you go arrow build, sometimes you miss one of those, and she's not going to get that much resources back from it. And it's a nice wave clear tool as well to keep all those Junkrat bombs in check.
Ooh, Gondar instantly locks in the mosh pit, and he misses there, but they do not miss the Entomb as they've got Auriel locked in. They do not have 10 there, and Auriel ends up following. They did commit several heroics to get that kill, though, Kendall.
Yeah, you may ask yourselves, guys, was that really worth it? I do say yes, because by the time Ballistix turns 10, they're probably not going to fight immediately after again, so most of those cooldowns, especially the Entomb, especially the Riptire, will probably be ready again, but that was a very hectic moment there. Right now, they may actually have to surrender this Dragon Knight, depending on how much pressure Ballistix wants to give over onto those shrines, because, as we just said, heroic abilities for BlossoM, rather not ideal situation right now.
Not at all. And you can see Gondar and team having to retreat just a little bit. Again, those heroics are big-time cooldowns, and they can't necessarily turn these fights with those cooldowns right now, but they have the shrine control. As Dudu putting the pressure on. Not able to bait out too much, but it looks like we're going to at least play neutral here as the bottom tower, the bottom shrine, captured by Hooligan.
Yeah, I just gotta mention Leoric here once again. I think so much pressure in that top lane consistently against the Blaze. That's not really an image we're used to seeing a lot, right, J-How? Because normally it's Blaze who turns the hero lanes upside down. Normally it's he in the driver's seat. But this time around, although top lane is getting low pressure, Ballistix like, you know what? We're just gonna turn things around ourselves here. We're gonna get counter value in the bottom lane.
They get the push, they get the fort down, and they need to get some control back here because experience-wise was starting to get over in favor of BlossoM. I think playing even to this point, you know, again, the double support, there's going to be questions abound when it comes to it, and you have to win the team fights. And then after you win the team fights, you have to do a lot with it. They're able to get some of the structure value in, get some control of the battleground, and overall, that's actually a bigger win because that well is now down on their side. So if we do get to those skirmishes, those longer drawn-out fights, you don't have the well. Ballistix does have the double support, and they've got a fallback option as well.
BlossoM getting dangerously close to level 13, which would be a pretty big advantage for them to go into those future team fights. Now, something I want to highlight here real quickly for Ballistix is, as stable as their team composition is, as hard to kill as it is, they're going to have to manage their cooldowns very carefully, because if only one of those tools overlaps with another one, for example, if Divine Shield is cast while Sacrification is up, if the bunker is being used too early, it could really crumble very quickly. So not only do they have a rather gimmicky composition in the current meta, but they also have to execute it so diligently.
They will definitely have to execute it pretty much flawlessly, and I agree with you 100%. You know, I can't help but notice there that Wiz just getting so much free push on the top, but he is going to get picked off here, getting some trait value, of course. But Jungle has had his hands full, Kendrick, in the sense that he's been trying to double soak those lanes. And for Ballistix, it's hard to commit anything else to that because your wave clear is basically Vala. And speaking of Vala, Vala very far forward. The Pulse Bomb is out, but Crystal Aegis in return. The Power Slide in. Gondar, however, is going to be met with a rain of vengeance as he's going to go down, and Dudu trying to get any bit more counter push and unable to do so, but we've got a concussion mine out as well. All for naught as we see Gondar fall.
Yeah, that is the Ballistix dream. A full energy Auriel, full shields everywhere on SCSC, most importantly there. Basically, at this point, SCSC is untouchable. You get a kill early on, and there's nothing BlossoM can do unless, you know, cooldowns were traded very evenly. For example, Hooligan going in once again with a holy ground as well. Tranquility's being pushed here, and BlossoM, they want to fight for this Dragon Knight.
They want to fight for it. SC, the Pulse Bomb's actually going to miss. Sanctification goes down.
Dudu.
They put Dudu under there as Hooligan uses that Eldruin's Might, goes in, confirms the kill. Tracer going down there, and this double support, they're finding ways to try and get in there, but they're unable to confirm any of the kills that they're really stretching for.
The Quantum Spike on Tracer is such a powerful tool, and it builds up rather quickly as well if you compare it to other heroic abilities, but there's always something ready to stop it from happening, whether it's the bunker, whether it's the Crystal Aegis. Actually, totally forgot to talk about that heroic ability earlier on. There's just so many defensive tools that if they don't make a catch in a couple of split seconds, in the longer drawn-out fights, Jo, I don't think they're going to make it.
Yeah, and they really need to start to find a way to get an advantage elsewhere. They need to look at getting their Knights on their side, trying to force a response. Again, Blaze is not enough to just sit there by himself. You can force the rotation out. At this point, though, you got to worry about the counter push in the bottom lane. But they're doing it now. They're getting these Knights. They have to find a way to force rotations out, split up that 4-man, or force a rotation out to get the fight on your terms. The good thing for BlossoM is that because Wiz has done so well in that top lane, they've kept up the soak, they still have an experience advantage, albeit a small one. They're down in structures, but they've kept this game neutral for the most part.
And I feel a little bit sorry for Gondar and that ETC as well. True, ETC is a playmaking warrior, no doubt. But if you take a look at it, there's so many potential interrupts or so many tools to actually render a mosh pit useless anyways. Whether it's a knockback from Auriel, whether it's a stun by Blaze, a well-timed sanctification by Tyrael. It's not easy to make ETC work, and I think that is why oftentimes teams this tournament at least were relying on other warriors such as Murd and such as Anubrak.
Ballistix turning their attention to the top. They got some Knights of their own. BlossoM didn't do much with theirs. They do still have Junkrat that was pushing in the bottom, so that will get some value.
Gondar's getting so denied right there.
He's getting super denied. He's looking for that flank, unable to get it. But now as Ballistix has moved through this wall, they're almost 16. BlossoM picked up 16 in the meantime. But again, getting the counter push in the bottom, I think, was the best thing BlossoM got out of this.
All right, the Holy Ground providing a little bit of extra protection when it comes to retrieving for just a little bit. The Knights are still pushing and strong. And up to this point, I think Ballistix really has found their comfort zone. They're trying to get that Dragon. And actually, with a double support, you can even, wow, the Divine Shield there as well to render any interrupts completely useless. And with the double support, you can let that Auriel slide in there. So really solid Dragon Knight. Definitely well done.
This is one of those rare times where you're actually okay that Auriel is the one in the Dragon Knight, because during that, wait a minute, support. Don't go in that thing. We need you alive. But speaking of alive, we see Gondar on the backside. Pulse Bomb has missed again, but we've got an Entomb here, Kendrick.
And that was a massive block there by Blaze as well, completely shutting down the entrance to the Entomb of Leoric, blocking the way, using his massive Firebat body to really keep the enemies in check. And now what looked like a good engage for BlossoM, it is once again full house, beautifully done for Ballistix, and they're not done just yet.
They're not done just yet, but the Dragon Knight sitting at 11, 10% and falling. They get the fort down, they'll get a little bit of keep wall damage, but I think the breaks are going to stall just a little bit here because there's not a lot more they can do with it. They had an idea to turn their attention to the top lane, maybe take down that fort, push themselves a little bit closer to 20, but I don't think they're going to get as much value as they anticipated. But starting to slowly take down these structures is what they're obtaining, as now 2 forts down on the side of BlossoM.
Yeah, actually a very slow game if you compare it to the previous series where there were multiple kills, multiple high-action paced team fights here. Only 2 to 5 kills up to this point, but slowly and surely we're starting to get there. Nice concussion mine attempt here on Blaze, immediately the bunker counter though. He's
bunker
not
counter.
in my house, you know.
Well, we're going to see the bunker. Everybody hops on out of there with a little bit of armor. The Entomb is going to lock them down. Mosh Pit is available. Let's see if he can find a way to pull the trigger as Gondor goes in. There's the power slide. There's the Mosh Pit. Divine Shield is out onto Uther, who comes in with the stun. But that's going to be the first takedown of the game as Tyrael goes down to the first takedown of the fight. Wiz somehow staying alive as the Riptire goes in. Uther falls down. They're maybe looking for more.
Double trade value up to this point. Can Uther Spirit keep everybody alive for now? It doesn't look like it. Zhongha dropping dangerously low. SCSC is down as well. The main carry no longer in the game. The bunker dance is about to commence here, but I don't think Blaze is going to make it out. The preemptive body blocks as well. And BlossoM is on a tear right now.
On a tear, and all they needed was Gondar getting that 1 second of value out of that mosh pit. Guys, sometimes you don't need that dream mosh. Sometimes it's a matter of like, look, if we can force out enough, you get the lockdown on 2 minutes or two members, and you get that 1-2 seconds of just free value to get out there. Perfectly played. Gondar, his positioning impeccable, going through there, and all of a sudden BlossoM, structural disadvantage is now looking like they're going to have complete control over this battleground, as that's 1 fort, 2 fort, and we're going to move to the bottom and make it 3.
And that is exactly the opportunity that BlossoM was looking for. Just trying to get that short window of opportunity for ETC to shine. A beautiful Entomb as well. The Entomb Riptire combination actually doing so much work. And we mentioned the value of Junkrat, not just in this game, but also in the previous set as well. And it really continues to do so well, the Junkrat that is, that I think he may have, well, you know, been the counter remedy, the anti-medicine against the double support from Ballistix.
It was really surprising how long Ballistix stayed in that area looking for that. Again, they used that Dragonite to go up there, and I questioned whether they would get much out of taking it up there. They stayed for so long, ended up turning on them, and now we've got a half, maybe 3/4 of a level lead in favor of BlossoM, which means they're getting close to 20. And if they're able to hold both of these and get a DK here where it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do, there's camps pushing in the bottom. If they can get to the bottom quick enough, get down 1 tower, they'll be at 20, threaten keep. And if Ballistix isn't careful, again, if one piece of the puzzle for Ballistix falls, the rest of it might fall as well.
And guess what Ballistix lacks? They lack single target DPS, they lack damage, kill potential threat overall as well. The Dragonite, I think, is not going to get chipped down that quickly as long as Junkrat doesn't really overextend too much. The first tower is about to fall. We still have Siege Shine. Malfurion actually using a couple of regrowth spells on those Siege Shines to keep them alive for as long as possible. Still 55% health, 40 now on the Dragonite. Actually making a mistake here, trying to go for that punt, getting kited and losing a little bit of valuable time.
They lose a valuable amount of time. They will get the keep out of this, not going to get much more, not able to find that pick. But the bottom lane control, Kendrick, as we know on this battleground, is so significant. And that is a major play, especially when there's no global on the side of Ballistix. The clear from them requires so many members or Blaze, and there's just not enough control when you run this double support style. And so they gave up a lot, and Ballistix finds themselves in a tough position.
Yeah, and actually we talked about Gondar struggling a little bit in the early mid-game stages of the game. Now he's going to have that element of surprise with the Bolt of the Storm. ETC, probably one of the coolest heroes to have at level 20. So many beautiful talents to choose from. But the Bolt of the Storm in particular could allow for some fancy gameplays. If you get that 2-3-man stun in against several of the supports and warriors, then all of a sudden the dance party is not going to be shut down that easily.
Tranquility, something that, you know, a little bit more prevalent in Korea. Now we're seeing a little bit of upgrade as well. So you can get the cooldown reduction, you get increased healing. We'll see how that plays out in these team fights. Who needs double support when you can basically get a little bit of extra healing there from Tranquility? Maybe have a bit more uptime on that or a little bit more frequency on that, and we'll see how that plays out here into the late game. But with 20 tier advantage, we see BlossoM very aggressive with their positioning, but 20 almost here for Ballistix. I think Blossom's going to have to back out here in a moment. Just try and create something a little bit different on this battleground.
Yeah, and immediately we see the big hits, the big bangers coming in here. The redemption for Uther, the shield of hope for Ariel, that's going to be even more protection. So reckless play can be saved and rewarded actually even harder, because the more HP are missing from that target, the stronger, the more powerful the shield is going to be from Ariel now.
We get double shields. So
double shields, it's crazy.
Ariel shields, Tyrael shields, Angel shields everywhere. Bunker upgrade. I mean, Ballistix is literally trying to make themselves unkillable, Kendrick.
Yeah, but can they kill the other team? That is the big question, right?
It's a good question.
You only have SCSC at this point, and oftentimes one Bala, despite the fact that you went for the multi-shot build, is not enough to keep all that onslaught, all those minions, all those mercenaries at bay.
shrines active now, and 20 tier for both teams.
The next one could end the game.
The next one very easily could end the game. So. Ballistix has to be careful. Every move that they make has to be a team effort, but they'll also have the threat of catapults eventually. And once they start to just minorly push out about 3/4 of the way into the lane, that's when BlossoM can create opportunities.
And Ballistix knows that. They're trying to make that aggressive play onto the bottom C-Chance because they realize if we end up taking too much pressure there, hey, BlossoM.
BlossoM's just going to push directly into the keep. This is okay, but they're not. Their retreat point is non-existent. They're going to have to go up and out. Now you can see
Gondor's got this. He can just easily knock them back. The roots are great for zoning there as well. That's the limited.
The Holy Ground.
Holy Ground's good.
Holy Ground's got him in. Riptire in response. Bunker is down as well. Ballistix starting to use some of all of their cooldowns. Blizz very deep in here as Wiz walking away using that Wraith Walk. Sanctification has already been used. Bunker is down as well. Some of those defensive cooldowns are down. Will BlossoM try and take advantage of that?
Yeah, this could be the moment for BlossoM to shine. Lyric going in for the big ominous Wraith. The knockback is huge as well. SC is in a little bit of trouble, but it could be Wiz falling after all.
Wiz falls, but that is Leoric. He will be back quicker than anybody. Dudu trying to get away here. He has one blink charge. Hooligan trying to speed up and get everybody in there to slow onto Gondar. Ballistix walking away, trying to get there, but Wiz in that Wraith Ghost form, getting the slowdowns. But that could have just blown up. The Entomb went with the silence. They've got the counter engage. Tracer! Tracer, what are you doing there?
I mean, Tracer was just checking in. Are you really trying to posture up in the middle? Are you really trying to go
Leoric.
Right now? Yeah, exactly.
You literally have Leoric that should be providing vision of some sort there. Leoric should have been in that bush, following them, getting slows onto Ballistix.
Right.
I don't know.
You know what I want to call that? I want to call it a touch of China. Those are the plays you don't necessarily understand, but they're entertaining in one way or the other.
All right, now, Ariel back in here. Ballistix, they're going to turn their attention to the bottom lane, Kendrick. They want to try and neutralize this bottom lane, even up the catapults in that bottom lane. But they're also going to, 21 minutes in, look to potentially do more with this. But they have a long way to go. Getting through the keep wall, getting through the keep is just the first step.
Depending on how well this push goes, depending on how many kills they can actually secure here, this could be lights out. This could be game over for BlossoM here. Ballistix is on the warpath. They're trying to get in there. Ominous Wraith is getting in there as well. The mosh pit, as you said, Jayo, could be a big game breaker and turnaround.
See, the Dragonite has taken down the keep. It's still pretty healthy. 50 seconds left, 55-ish% health-wise. The Dragonite moving forward, but Wiz, remember, he does have Buried Alive. You got to be careful here. Going too deep there. Wiz forcing them back. The Riptire's out as well, Kendrick.
The Riptire is trying to go for a sneaky flank. The mosh pit is getting interrupted by the punt. The Sanctification is huge as well. SCSC is low. He is the member that cannot fall under any circumstances, but he falls.
He falls, and that might not be the only one. Wiz somehow alive, and now the punt away. Dudu on the backside. He's going to see if he can confirm another kill as Ariel is all but dead on the left side. Crystal Aegis not going to do much there as the rest of BlossoM should be able to finish this up. And Kendrick, just like that with Ballistix, all of those members down. It's only an Uther and a Tyrael, and this should be enough for BlossoM to move forward and in this game.
And here comes the Riptire around the corner. No mana left for Tyrael. The knockback is huge. Does he have another Eldrin's? Yes, he has. Junkrat with the cannonballs there as well, trying to keep up the chase, and he does so successfully. And I think this is it. I think BlossoM has done it. 4 members dead. 20 seconds until Blaze is back. Only Magi left to defend this core. And I mean, Magi's a good player and all. Uther's a great hero. He's Alliance after all, but he won't be able to do that, I guess.
Double support is struggling in a lot of areas, but you can see that when it comes to the overall control, when part of it falls, the rest of it falls, and BlossoM has come out here and punished this, and it all goes back to the team fight up at the top where Ballistix stayed a bit too long, and the clutch mosh pit by Gondar and the Entomb by Wiz. When it comes to the coordination of those team fights, BlossoM seems to have a way to clutch it out, Kendrick.
I'm very impressed by the way BlossoM played this game. I mean, we did say that Wiz sometimes trying to go for a draft that may be a little bit too ambitious to make work, but against what is a very rusty, a very old-fashioned composition with a double support here. They seem to know exactly what they wanted to go for here. Junkrat, once again, those rip tires, those concussion mines, so much mayhem as well. And even the mighty fortress of team composition that Ballistix tried to assemble here didn't work out.
It didn't, and I was so surprised when we got the end part of that draft. I expected Greymane, potentially adding a Taika somewhere in the mix there, but they ended up going into a Vala Ariel. And Kendrick, you had said the success of that Vala pick before, not so much. Now they're 0-2 in that regard.
Yeah, we're still waiting for that first SCSC Vala victory in 2018, and if you were questioning SCSC on that hero like a few months ago, somebody would have called you nuts, a lunatic actually, but I don't know, what's going on with Ballistix here, Dread?
Hello. Hello. Mic works now. I mean, TLDR, I feel like his double support's a hard composition to run in this current meta, especially if you are not able to snowball and manipulate the map, specifically, again, that Night Giant rotation. Honestly, to me, it feels like when we see Korea run this, it's all inning on like the first 9 minutes, or not even 9 minutes, it's like first 4 minutes of the game, and just going, can we be too difficult to be able to take out the front walls, get an early Dragonite, and once that happens, it's just, we have too much macro control, right? BlossoM never let that happen. They stalled it out. We were looking at like level 18, one fort was dead. That is absolutely the exact opposite. Even when double support was, you know, the OP meta, right? If you looked at that in a double support comp and you were like, you have all your forts available, pretty much -1 at that late of the game, you'd be like, I don't expect how you can win this, because that is what the comp is good at. The long, sustained siege. BlossoM did a great job dismantling it.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight Wiz again on that Leoric in the early game. It was so cool to see how BlossoM never had